This week, Mercury is in his pre-retrograde shadow in Scorpio, bringing us a taste of that which is going to come back to us, to be revisited, reimagined, restructured, realigned, all your re-words. And there's other planets in retrograde as well. Jupiter will join them. So I'm going to go through the lineup today because we're entering into the time right now where we get to get all of our ducks in a row. Come spring of 2026, it's going to feel like we're being shot out of a cannon with brand new opportunities and a brand new world that we're stepping into. I just gave my cycles and opportunity class. And if you missed it, I'll post the link in the description box so that you can get it for free. It's epic. It weaves together history, astrology, and human design. And we talked a little bit about the 2027 solar plexus mutation that I referenced in last video, which is on the grand water trines, preparing us for this important mutation that humanity is experiencing so that we can experience awakening in a body. I'll say more about that in future videos. Today's video is going to be looking at the week ahead and the energy that is shifting from forward motion, even if chaotic forward motion, to now a backward motion. And when we go backward, when we retrograde, it gives us a chance to rethink things. And so let's go through the lineup. Let's start with Mercury first. Mercury is in his pre-shadow retrograde in Scorpio, and he's still going direct, he's moving into Sagittarius. And then on November 9th, he's going to retrograde from Sagittarius back into Scorpio. And then he's going to turn around and go direct again on November 18th, starting back at that Scorpio point. And then he'll be out of his pre-retrograde shadow a couple of weeks after that, and we're flying clean. So when we talk about pre-retrograde and post-retrograde, what are we meaning here? And it's important to note because it's giving us 3 passes at something. The first pass during this pre-retrograde shadow is giving you an idea of what's going to come up, what's in your field, what are the issues that are going to be re-looked at, readdressed, reimagined. And it'll give you 2 passes to do that. One, when Mercury is retrograding back over that very same territory. That's why we call it pre-shadow, because now he's going to come backward over that same degree points. And then when he turns around, he's got to go back through it all again. So really making sure we get the lesson. So where is Scorpio in your chart? Where is Sagittarius in your chart? Those houses will give you an idea of what's going to be worked. What are the communications around those things? Mercury is the mind, the messenger. When he goes retrograde, we have less awareness of the message. We're working with it. We're wrestling with it. We're coming up with solutions. We're trying to find the answers to it. And then when it moves direct, we kind of have this opening. When it gets out of that post-retrograde shadow, then we're free and clear of that conversation. Something's being integrated into our being. So let's look at the themes of Scorpio and Sagittarius. The sun is in Scorpio right now, giving us a look at where we want to go into the depths. Where are the secrets, the lies, the deeper information that want to be excavated? That's what's happening in Scorpio season. This is when we go inward, we descend, as the feminine says, we go down to go up. So we must go into the body. We must descend into the womb space, into the darkness in order to see the light. That's the feminine principle. And that feminine principle is alive in Scorpio. It's really the beginning of the wheel. When we start something, we start by going down. And then we come out of that depth with new knowledge, with having purified ourselves, Scorpio being a water sign. So there's going to be some depth, some transformation, something that gets revealed in this time. It's a very intense sign because it's willing to go so far into the depths. Then Sagittarius pops it up and says, y'all maintain the view. Come on up here, not on the depths. Let's see the future, the archer directing the bow and arrow into the horizon, into the unknown, into our future selves. But we can't get there without Scorpio, without going to the depths. Otherwise, we wouldn't be bringing our authenticity, our full selves to the table. So they work together. Sagittarius rules our beliefs, our philosophies, and let's say our worldview. And maybe we're poised for an upgrade, but we really don't even know where we're at. So I'm going to give you a rubric of where you are in your worldview to support you in making a quantum leap. Now, I say quantum leap, but really everything is included and transcended. You're going to make the next right leap for you. But some people don't make leaps at all. So in that way, it becomes an act of our will to grow and evolve, to allow the circumstances of life to shape us and change us and to grow us. And how do we grow? Well, the principal way we grow is through sourcing ourselves, through being our own authority, through no longer asking for permission or seeking validation or creating stories in our minds of a Pollyanna that doesn't exist in reality. It's very grounded in reality as we grow. It takes full responsibility for what we're choosing and where we're at. Yeah, we are in spiritual maturation time. So before we get into worldview, I just presenced Mercury. The exact dates of the retrograde are November 9th through November 18th. And then let's look at a couple other planets because we are dealing with some big turning inward. And I love that at the end of the year because it already is so hectic and chaotic with holiday season that we are really wanting to be more quiet, more in solitude, more in stillness. And so I invite you to bring those practices into your world and resist the temptation for distraction and throwing it away because your soul, if aligned with the cosmos, really wants to do that. Oh, and if you're here and you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Kenlyn. We talk about astrology, human design, gene keys, esoteric wisdom, and weave it in as we are evolutionary spiritual midwives, bridging the gap between this change of an age from the old to the new. We are that edge walker, that midwife, that beautiful alchemist in the middle of two distinct, very different, crazy changes and transformations in ages. I just talked about in cycles and opportunity. So you can grab that for free and check it out where I weave in the philosophy of history, astrology, and human design, as well as talk about that solar plexus mutation that I think makes everything come together so perfectly. So what else is, we know now Saturn is retrograde. We've known that for a while because now Saturn is probably at the like 26, 25 degree points. Saturn is going to move into Aries on February 13th, late, could be February 14th your time. So we have this time in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, reviewing the last 3 years of what Saturn dissolved and changed inside of your life. I was in my second Saturn return, and if you're around my age, you too have a Saturn in Pisces, and you've been in some kind of a Saturn return for you as well. The other planet that has just gone retrograde is Neptune. Neptune's now at the 29 degree point, this anaretic degree point of Pisces, the final degree of Pisces. And Neptune at 29 degrees is like the tide just sucking everything out at sea. I have a friend who has a 29 degree Pisces sun, and I left her a message saying, wow, Neptune just went retrograde right on your sun. Are you feeling like you're underwater, like you're drowning, like everything is being pulled away from you? And she was like, how do you know? Well, that's the signature. Pisces is water, and Neptune is this higher octave of universal consciousness, but also on the shadow side, illusion, delusions. So this person is completing a divorce, selling the house, moving into a new space, taking on a new job, like truly reinvention. And so the words I wanted to say to this person, and I want to say to you, if you're experiencing that, is hold tight. You are literally being reinvented in your entire identity. That is when Neptune is on your sun, entire identity. the illusions that you bought into, such as marriage, like happily ever after, I'll live in this house forever, I love our life, you know, all the things that you created a picture in your mind, but it didn't quite match with reality. And so reality came because Saturn came, the bitch goddess of reality came into Pisces and started working that. And then Neptune comes and wipes it all away and says, you know, we're not going to live in the illusion anymore. So what's being reborn for someone like that is a whole new life, a whole new world. Like she will not recognize herself from 2026 onward. You know, when we're going through that kind of breakdown, we really need to hear that there's light at the end of the tunnel and that there's purpose to the breakdown, the suffering, the chaos, the upheaval. Otherwise, it just feels like life is against us. And that's where we make up all kinds of stuff about life being against us when it's really not. This is Earth school. This is Earth school. And we are here to get our asses kicked, to learn how to let go, and to learn how to source and find the truth in every breakdown situation. And if we're riding our solar plexus wave, it's going to take a minute because we need to touch in on all the emotions before we come to an equipoise, to a place of equanimity where we can see that indeed everything is for our highest and best. And that is the hope and trust that I carry in this body, mind, in this template as part of my motivation in human design. All right, so we covered your Saturn and we covered Neptune. Neptune is going to enter Aries on January 26th. So that piece will be complete January 26th. We said Saturn completes his run through Pisces February 13th, late or 14th, depending on where you are. So we could say that around that February, early March time, there's this window that is really exact around the February 13th time when Saturn joins Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. And there we can really say it's a classical conjunction. They are operating as one. So what is operating as one? Well, Neptune is not just fantasy and illusion, but also this higher octave of love. It's the dream. It's this higher consciousness with the planet Saturn that makes things real, puts things into form, wants to see that you walk the paces. So the discipline and the structure to make those dreams a reality. That's how we're interpreting this conjunction of 0 degrees, Neptune and Saturn. And we can look for that happening in mid-February. And that energy is destabilizing because we do have Neptune in the mix. And so it's destabilizing. It's new. We're going into the new world. That's really, if I were to say what is New Year's Day, like it would be that. And we also have, you know, you can't make this stuff up, the Chinese New Year. We're going into the fire horse. Anybody else a fire horse? And that, you can't make that up because this is Aries. And we've got 0 degrees Aries, a fire sign, the new year. And then shortly thereafter, we'll have a new moon, which kicks off the new archetype in the Chinese calendar of the fire horse. So we've got a lot of fire that is going to propel us through the next 2026 into 2027 and all the changes that we're now getting to embody. Whew. All right. And then Uranus. Uranus is going to stay in Taurus. He's going to turn around February 3rd, but he's going to stay in Taurus. It's going to take him a while. He's super slow. Revisiting the final degrees. So like we're getting the final degrees of that Taurus is getting worked with Uranus going retrograde, covering all of it. And again, he's going to come back over all that territory and then move out of Taurus for good in our lifetime, never see it again, into Gemini, signifying the change of the age. Like now we're in the disruption of Uranus joining Pluto in Aquarius in the Lord of Death and Rebirth in a new cycle of changing everything. I talk about this in Cycles and Opportunity. That happens on April 25th when he enters into Gemini. So we can see that February, March, April are really the shifting points. So back to here where we are now, late October, November, December, January, some of February, we're really in the retrograde cycle. So get your ducks in a row, like truly do your taxes, get that paper organized off your desk, like truly get your shit together, because there is some new things that want to come through you and you don't want to be bogged down by the old. We got to talk about one more planet, and that is Jupiter retrograde, which is happening November 11th to March 11th. So December, January, February, March, 4 months in retrograde. So again, that fits right at that early spring period. We have this Lord of Abundance, the great expander, the benefic going retrograde in Cancer. So wherever he was lighting up, he's now going to backtrack and really take a look again. Again, this is our opportunity to recalibrate, reimagine, revision, reinvent where we're going. So I'm going to also leave in the description box the Reinvention code. It's 4 keys to 10x your life in an era of Uranus and Gemini. It's just providing the disruption that we need to just skyrocket ourselves, if we so choose, if we want to create a new playing field. So that's $22 also there. I'm not going to go into that material because it's already gone into Cycles and Opportunities, going to be for free. So if you want access to that, you can have it. I'm certainly still doing a few of these genius activations. I talk about that in the Cycles and Opportunities class because people are very hungry to know what is their purpose, their path. And this information will validate what you already know. So let's go into a couple pieces around the worldview. So remember how I said that Mercury in Sagittarius, especially retrograde, gives you the opportunity to revisit your worldview. Maybe it's time to evolve yourself. Let me give you the distinctions from my teacher, Larry Byram. He does this work called Higher Alignment, and you can find him on Substack. And he really talks about worldview being a key metric of dating and partnership. So anytime you want to commingle with someone in either a business way or a romantic way, it really helps to be aligned in your worldview. And worldviews evolve from when we were in the womb and first born. And I'm going to take you through those worldviews, but some people get stuck and you're going to say, I know someone who's like that, even though they're not 1 year old, because some trauma happened to them and they're stuck. So the 7 stages of worldview begins with the survival worldview. And there are 7 stages to each of the worldviews, but I'm not going to go into that level of nuance. That's for Larry. If you've never had a reading with him, I highly recommend it. He's next level ninja. He's just been the ace in my pocket for many, many years. So the first worldview is called survival worldview. It's a pre-personal worldview. It's from birth to age 3. And this is that question, the existential question you're asking yourself is, am I safe enough to exist? I mean, you're just a little baby, right? That makes sense. So depending on what happened in your environment, you can move out of that worldview. But if you think about people in war-torn areas that really experienced shock and trauma, they might be stuck in this survival worldview. And this is driven by the need to survive and meet basic needs. Creativity shows up as the body's response to stimulation and the intuitive navigation of danger and nurturing. So people who are very danger focused. And you could also have different worldviews in different contexts, by the way. Yeah, because this is no fun if you got stuck, something traumatic happened to you and you weren't able to grow past that. The second worldview is called safety and security worldview. This is also pre-personal. This is when you grow out of that, you go to age 3 to 7, where your guiding question is, who will protect and care for me? And you seek structure, attachment, the control of your basic needs. You can see that kids, they begin to see cause and effect in their environment. This is where they make up stories about how life is. This is where the concept, Hoffman's concept of negative love comes in, where I saw my parents fighting, so it must be because I'm bad. Ooh, that's a heavy one to carry, and we all have to work our way out of that. So they seek a sense of belonging through routines and familiarity. And when it's distorted, this become a lifetime pattern of seeking approval or creating walls to avoiding vulnerability. And some people never move beyond this stage. So again, I think it's when trauma happens and a person doesn't feel safe and secure in their world. They answered the question was, who will protect and care for me? No one. And they go into a protective shell. And we know people like that. The next worldview becomes personal. Now it was pre-personal, personal, and then we have transpersonal. And in this third stage, it's an outer success worldview from ages 7 to 21. And this is outer success. Most, like a lot of coaches are here, to be honest. Certainly politicians are here. I would think a lot of people in the public eye, like actors, because this is about how do I demonstrate my value and my capabilities. It's proving, and it's proving usually through the materiality that I accumulate, that I am successful. So it's really an identity construction and this desire to seek outside yourself, affirmation from outside yourself. So there's a lot of focus, striving, and you're practicing like goal setting even, and a challenging authority. We could still have parts of us that are like that, even though maybe all of us isn't like that. So this is the world of resumes and roles where people define themselves by their external accomplishments. And the shadow in this is burnout, emptiness, when success doesn't lead to self-worth. Now that is good, because what happens when it doesn't do that is that you actually are poised to make a worldview jump. And some never leave that worldview. They just keep trying to accumulate more, thinking, oh, it's the thing that I have, rather than seeing the matrix. Number 4 is a relationship worldview. That's when we become personal. We're impersonal still, from young adult to midlife. Can I be known and loved for who I am? Most people in the world are there. Most people who get coaching are there. Most coaching programs are there. So this is about mutual vulnerability, intimacy, and emotional truth. And you can see that that's a very juicy place to be in that relationship worldview. And if you're going to date anyone or partner, they've got to be at least here. Otherwise, there's just all this unconscious shit that's going on. And they don't really know a lot about relating. They don't really know about self-disclosure or about boundaries or about negotiation of what's true for you, about expressing their real feelings. So this relationship worldview is actually the bridge to the transpersonal awareness. So without healing the wounds of safety, success, and intimacy, we are stuck in idealization or some kind of dependency there. And idealization is just making things up, like I will get married and live happily ever after. And these images that people create, and then they like to disseminate on Instagram of how great their life is. Like they'll show pictures with their kids and their husband, and they know, we all know that there's none of that shadow is shown, because they're projecting idealization. They're living inside of a worldview that doesn't quite reckon itself with reality. And that's why these challenges that we face will take us to the next worldview, because we have to reckon with reality. Okay, so my teacher, Larry, says most lose momentum before reaching even like mid-relationship. But if we pass this level, if we make it past this level, then we're going to continue to grow. The next layer after that becomes transpersonal. And this is really where a lot of inner peace comes, because you've done the work. You've healed a lot of wounds. It doesn't mean that you've healed all of them, but enough of them. And you're now in an inner success worldview. And the question you're asking really is, what is true for me regardless of other people? And so you're experiencing is more of an awakening, but you also want to be more by yourself. You don't need other people or external validation. So you're creating your own rhythms, and you're meditating, and you're being in nature. I mean, how many people do I talk to and I say, what would be the thing you really want if there were no constraints? And this is in the intake for the genius work I do. And they like to be in nature. I don't know if they say alone all the time, but it's more intuitive. So you can still have some idealization here, but you're really reckoning with that, because you're getting to know yourself on the inside. So the approval for others fades, and it's replaced by the trust in your own inner compass. And I think that's where the work of human design really fits in, because that's what it's asking you to do. And it's helping you go to this level of inner success. So relationships, they're going to shift out of seeking something, like I'm trying to get you to see me, to sharing, to mutual cooperation. It's really kind of, it becomes less performative and more about getting to know someone on an equal level playing field and accepting them for who they are. Then we go into the next two ones. They're both transpersonal. Well, the next one's transpersonal, and then the last one's called impersonal. So after inner success, we go into personality integration worldview. And again, this is all through my teacher, Larry Byram of Higher Alignment. And the guiding question of personality integration is, can I love all parts of me as a unified whole? Because we are fragmented. You know, one of my yoga teachers used to say that there are 16 personalities or 17 personalities in all of us, which honestly, I think there's more than that, but there's voices, that's parts work, right? So now we're integrating shadow and light. We're accepting the paradox. We see that things are not always black and white, and that the truth has so many sides to it. It's part of when you've done that radical self-love work or the trauma healing work, and you've gone through a really deep ego death. We can't escape that one. And there's lots of astrological configurations like Pluto square the sun that we just had that can trigger that if it's in an auspicious placement in your chart. So here, you're really focusing on inner harmonization to move through the world as one. That means accepting and loving all parts of yourself. That means knowing all parts of yourself, forgiving yourself, doing shadow work. A lot of people have done that, but this is like a true wholesale way of being. And these are hierarchical. So if you're embodying relationship, you're not embodying personality integration, but that can come because you're getting tastes of it. You know, things are fuzzy as well. And then the final thing, after operating from like truth and goodness, joy and service, and operating from internal unity, we then can occupy the highest worldview. And very, very few people do. And thank goddess that they do, though, because they're anchoring down the frequency for other people. This is the impersonal worldview of what we call world service. And I like to put that in our consciousness. We may never live that in our lifetime, but why not? Why not put it in your mind that you are going to evolve to that level of worldview? And so you can say in this, because it's impersonal, how can it be of service to the world without self-reference? Like, it doesn't need to be about me. Now, I know that people say that, but that's probably more conditioning in there, where you got to be a self before you can be no self. But this is truly after that ego death where the self has been wiped. And so you're really in world service. I think there might be a few people, I'm wondering if I can name them. Maybe Amma, the hugging saint, is there. I think that Ken Wilber himself is personality integration. Maybe he's gotten to world service. So there's just very few people playing at the top of the worldview spectrum, but why not have it in our consciousness? So this is really impersonal love in action. And, you know, the reason why that's important is because for us, love is usually very personal. Like we want to feel it. We want to be liked. You know, there's a phrase in leadership called always already listening. And that means that our conditioned self is always listening for, do they like me? Do they like me? Do they appreciate me? Do they like me? That is wiped in this stage of evolution. And so world service becomes more of a transpersonal leadership model, standing in true possibility, like true ninja, standing in possibility, because you're not limited by the constraints of who you thought you were. And you could actually be in service, not through doing more, but through the depth of your presence. So it's grounded in humility and trust that every step is part of the greater unfolding. And this is how, and the Gene Keys talks about this at the higher city levels, this is how your being becomes the offering. And I have to say that in this time that we are going through such a global awakening, that how can your being become the offering? Just put that in your third eye gaze and don't worry about it. It will do you, it will grow you up. And just know that the turbulence, the upheaval, the chaos, the reckoning, the crucibles are all fodder to bring you up this worldview ladder. Why? Because this is our ascension. We're not ascending just in states of consciousness. Wow, I had a state of oneness, but now I'm going to go drive my car and flip someone off, right? That's a stage. We are merging states and stages in unity consciousness. And how do we get there? Through this kind of work. Hallelujah. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. Let's gather all the positive energy that we have generated here and let's beam it out. May all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts. And so it is.